Welcome to the Museum of the American Indian. So hello everyone, I'm Ariel, this is Urbanist, and we are in the Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America, and it's on the National Mall. It's a part of the Smithsonian Institute, which is a huge collection of different museums all around this nation's capital and also a few others around the U.S. Now, here they call it American Indian. They're also known as Native Americans and people of the First Nations. The term is used interchangeably depending on where you are in the United States or in Canada or Mexico. But they're the people who were here before European colonization. Now, they weren't some homogeneous group. They were all a bunch of different tribes, different cultures, different languages, different origin stories, different philosophies, different spiritualities. Really, there was a huge mishmash of different cultures all around here. And today we're going to walk around and see all these different cultures. But right now we're in an interesting room that shows all the stereotypical depictions of the American Indian. Be sure to try the food, says Logan. Yeah, I wish the cafeteria was open. It's so unfortunately closed. I'm doing well. Okay, thank you so much. I wish the cafeteria was open. I came here 6 years ago. I was so blown away by the food. But unfortunately it is closed. And I'm so bummed about it. I might come later next year or the year after to try the food once again.
With a wrapper, different colored wrapper, you unwrap it, and on that wrapper are little images, mostly of kids playing baseball and football, and roller skating and stuff. But also, and kind of strangely,
hey Chris, glad a fellow Boricua is also watching. Taino people, lots of Puerto Ricans come from the Tainos. Other First Nations people, or Native Americans, or American Indian. There's many different terms, but they don't represent some homogeneous group, as I mentioned. Sometimes we just use language to have easier terms to use to further the conversation. Anything in the Pacific Northwest Indians, most likely yes. I'll keep an eye out. So here's an exhibition on Pocahontas. And it says, so wrong yet so right. In the official history of the United States of America begins with Pocahontas, her saving Captain John Smith and by extension, her rescue of Jamestown. This painting reveals many truths about Pocahontas and the interactions between the Powhatan and the English colonists in the early 1600s. But historians doubt that the scene it shows, Pocahontas saving the life of John Smith, happened at all. Oh, is it a myth? Nonetheless, Smith's dramatic account and its romantic retellings have had tremendous staying power, including a major Disney film, which is the most controversial Disney film. And they continue to say, I'm going to just read a lot of the different signs. Tobacco generated the wealth that saved Virginia. In the 1600s, tobacco and Pocahontas were synonymous. It was her husband, John Rolfe, who secretly bought the first Caribbean seeds to Virginia. Oh, interesting. He's highlighted right there. And probably grown and cured with native horticultural knowledge. The seeds produced a strain that sold throughout Europe. It made England wealthy and Jamestown successful. The tobacco was often sold using imagery of a native person. Hello Judith, hello Manolito, hello 4K Wanderer. Logan, thank you so much for the stars. Manny, oh sorry that it's not working too well in your area. Do refresh your page. Queen of America. In 1907, Virginia organized an exposition commemorating the 300th anniversary of Jamestown. It was designed to prove the United States began in Jamestown and not in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Interesting. And to show that the United States as a growing world power. So Pocahontas came here, well, Pocahontas, the entire drama between Pocahontas and James Smith, 1607. So yeah, I'm whispering today. There's a lot of guards around, and I'm trying to respect the peacefulness of the museum. I hope you enjoy the whispers. I'm not using my mic, just going, as bare bones as possible. But we're just going to walk around the museum, just enjoy it. If you want me to point the camera anywhere, please let me know. So Pocahontas, ooh, whoa. Oh, cool, a holograph. Pocahontas lived only 22 years. She left behind no recorded words. She only sat for one portrait, which is this one. Yet there are countless paintings, illustrations, poems, books, plays, animated movies, songs, a film by Terrence Malick even. And she's known as a mythic and mysterious figure, captivated people in her own time and generations to follow. Here are all the depictions, but this is the only official depiction. And it kind of made her look a little bit European. I wonder if they did that on purpose. GWS, thank you so much for tuning in. Judith, you're close to a family of Pueblo Indians in Albuquerque. Oh, that's so cool. It's an honor. That's awesome. Judith, please let me know, for that family that you are acquainted with, do they prefer the term American Indian or Native American? I'm curious, just for that specific family that you know, what's their personal preference? McDonald's had oh my god, they had a Colonel Custard figurine. He was responsible for a very big massacre of Native Americans. Oh, Judith. Oh, interesting. Native American they prefer for that family. Oh, here we have the headdress. You pass to see if there's anything on the eastern band of Cherokee. Okay. We'll keep an eye out for Cherokee and the Pacific Northwest. Mickey D saluted Custer with a Happy Meal toy. Yeah, they did. They did. It's like saluting, I don't know, what's a European equivalent of a man who killed a lot of innocent people? Indigenous peoples is another term, yeah. Good morning, Lori. Yeah, there we go. Can you zoom in more? Yeah, of course.
Where did they get their silk? Silk horn? Oh no. They're not silk.
Yeah.
Oh, eagle feather, eagle downy feather, wool cloth. So 1880. Oh, 1880. 1880. You could get silk anywhere. That'll change. Goose feathers and goose down. Eagle. Eagle. That would be in the way if he was in a fight. Maybe. He didn't wear it in a fight.
Welcome to the Smithsonian's National
Virginia,
Museum
I
of
have
the
to
American
use
Indian.
a mask,
Visitors
so
are required to wear face
if I
coverings
sound a little
and
bit
practice social
like they're
distancing while
saying,
in the
if it
museum.
sound muffled,
We appreciate
sorry
your
about that.
cooperation,
It's gonna
and thank you
happen.
for your continued
It's gonna happen.
support of the museum. We hope you enjoy your visit.
Nonetheless, I hope you at least enjoy the views, even if you can't hear me so clearly. Thank you, AA. Adam, 0. It's free. Many of the museums on the National Mall, if not all of them, are free. Especially the ones that are Smithsonian. Just, you have to reserve ahead of time. That's it. So, Barbara, you say that they call themselves Indians, but the women spurn the term squaws. Squaws, interesting. Wow. Oh, interesting. The making of a stereotype. So as I mentioned, here in America, we've really heavily stereotyped indigenous peoples, more so than even I think Canada or Puerto Rico, for example. So those were the papers of the Indian Removal Act. And it's one of the biggest stains on American history. It says that the act is brief, plainly worded, and vague. It says nothing about the specific tribes or even the South. The word is exchange. The wording suggests that the exchange of the Indian land in the East for territory west of the Mississippi is voluntary. Voluntary. Quotes. The act implies, but doesn't say, that if Eastern Indians would like to remain where they are, that's fine too. Again, with quotes. The act also doesn't say how long the removal should take or how much it will cost. Allie, I won't be able to ask anyone questions, but feel free to check out their website for that information. Carla, oh, that word is derogatory. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. Pardon if I said any words that might be interpreted as offensive. I only have good intentions showing this museum. Hey, 4K Wonder, thank you for the Canada 25. Appreciate it. It's very generous of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So it says removal, a new vision for this country. President Andrew Jackson, probably one of the most controversial of all the presidents prior to our current one, signed the Indian Removal Act into law May 30th, 1830. Carrying out a removal tested the new nation's capacity, infrastructure, and political will. It took decades and came at devastating human cost. It also transformed this country, and when the project began, America was a fledgling debtor nation. When it was complete, the United States was a global economic power. Ultimately removed, present a moral test. Could the United States stay true to its ideals? Could also bring prosperity to the South and also treat American Indians with dignity and respect? The nation tried to accomplish both goals, succeeded at only one. And yeah, I think he was one of the presidents who were impeached. says solving the Indian problem. The United States consciously chose to dispose native nations not through military power, but through an exchange of tribal territories for land beyond the country's settled borders. Even so, Indians and federal government became more entangled, not less. Removal launched a new era of bureaucracy. In the following decades, the government would come to manage nearly every aspect of American Indians' lives, including a very controversial school system, and also to acknowledge alcoholism is amongst the highest with indigenous people here in the U.S. I'm not saying that as a judgment against the people. I'm saying that as kind of a observation of probably some issues, systemic issues that have happened throughout American history with our relationship with indigenous people. Hey, Ali, my family has a lot of documentation from Tennessee and North Carolina with the Removal Act. I had to go through hell. The rolls, since most elders aren't considered, who went south instead of removal. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that, Ali. I hope you get the chance to retrace those documents. So there was a cotton boom after many Indians were removed. Same with Aboriginals, says Phil. Yeah, Australia also had a very complicated relationship with their Aboriginals. Here it says, a global superpower, cotton production increasingly rapidly after the Removals Act's passage in 1830, setting off the country's greatest economic boom up to that time. Cotton connected southern plantations, Massachusetts mills, and New York financial houses and traders in London and then Liverpool. "67,000 Indians were removed." Ali, thank you so much for sharing. Ali says, we had a famous person, mixed Scottish dad, half Cherokee mom, named John Ross, who founded our city of Chattanooga. Oh, interesting. So 67,000 Indians removed. Removal was supposed to be a smooth and benevolent process, again within quotes. Indians would be clothed, fed, and paid. Instead, it was a mess. For example, in removing the Choctaw, forgive my pronunciation, the United States pushed through a fraudulent treaty, supplied insufficient provisions, and forced the deportees to travel during severe winters. Each phase was badly managed and executed. Wow. So they were forcibly removed. They were forcibly removed, and unfortunately they had to push through harsh winters to go to their new lands that was bestowed upon the Americans, even though they kind of didn't own it. And 3,500 of the Muskogee died. Oof. 4,000, up to 4,000 of the Cherokee passed away. Removal was at the center of an astonishing chapter in American history. It's not just a tragic story about American Indians victimized by a cruel president. Today we remember removal as a betrayal of American values. We should also remember that it was thoughtfully debated by the most democratic country on earth. Okay. The way this is written is making me cringe a little bit. My own personal opinion, the way this is written is making me cringe a little bit. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Just the way it's written. I don't know, saying it out loud, it just feels like, so there's something missing here.
That was
Is that you, Allie? Yeah, it is. Allie, here it is. John Ross. I'll get to him after a few people move. But let me show you these guys first. Allie says, yes, it's cringy. Yeah, there's a bit of, I don't know, statements that kind of give like a nice pass for the Americans who passed these legislations. Here's Andrew Jackson. If this were a movie, he would be the villain of the movie. And it says, and it's supposed to be the wandering savage, has a strong attachment to his home than the settled, civilized Christian. Ugh. Oh my God. Oh, this guy. Uh-oh. No wonder he's, not many people like him. Ooh, he has some terrible quotes. I don't even want to read these quotes. Let's move on from him. So, this is Apothelia Yoholo. Again, forgive my pronunciation. Muskogee. He was later, and he says, "We have no lands to sell. We beg permission to be left where your treaties have left us, in the enjoyment of rights as a separate people, and to be treated as unoffending, peaceable inhabitants of our own and not a borrowed country." In 1825, Apotheli Yoholo led a Muskogee delegation to Washington to argue that a fraudulent land secession treaty ratified by the United States Senate be declared null and void. Through a successful and having fraudulent treaty overturned, the Muskogee continued to face relentless pressure for their homelands. And Allie, you mentioned that you were related to John Ross. Really cool. Let's see, he's the principal chief of the Cherokee. In 1827, John Ross became the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. During his fight for survival, he and other natives leaders used every democratic means available to resist removal. Convinced that democracy would respect Cherokee rights, Ross argued for accommodation and friendship with the United States. It says, quote, "Ever since the whites came, we have been made to drink of the bitter cup of humiliation, treated like dogs," end quote. And here's another quote. Quote, "Sir, to these remarks we beg leave to observe and to remind you that the Cherokee are not foreigners, but original inhabitants of America, and that they now inhabit and stand on the soil of their own territory, and that the limits of their territory are defined by treaties which they have made with the government of the United States, and that the states by which they are now surrounded have been created out of lands which was once theirs, and that they cannot recognize the sovereignty of any state within the limits of their territory." Ooh. John Ross, he has a very good point. John Ross staunchly opposed any proposal that the Cherokee cede their lands based on the idea that their nation was incompatible with the state of Georgia. The Cherokee, many educated at elite schools, established a constitutional form of government, allowed missionary schools into their territory, and established a bilingual tribal newspaper. He argued that any American unease about the Cherokee was unjustified. Okay. Thomas Jefferson. The more you end up learning about him, the more you might not like him. He's also another very controversial man. Man also filled with contradictions as well. And he's quoted saying to George Rogers Clark on January 1, 1780, and this is a quote in the museum, so I assume they've done their research. This is definitely probably a first-hand source. It says that the end proposed should be their extermination or their removal. Ooh. Wow. Just to clarify, I just want to read this quote so people know kind of the approach that the American presidents had. It says, should any tribe be foolhardily enough to take up the hatchet at any time, the seizing of the whole country of that tribe and driving them across the Mississippi as the only condition of peace would be an example to others and furtherance our own final consolidation. So Jefferson saw the American Indian as an impedance to making the United States of America into a country of farmers, also a country based on commerce. And both farming and commerce required, in his point of view, Indian land. Wow. Jefferson too, yeah. Hide, yes. Genocide would be a word that could be used. It says the Trial of Tears historical route. People at the bar that seats the table near me are asking, why am I listening and whispering? Says Elisa. Elisa. It's a difficult story. Tribes against each other as well. Some going behind others' back, drafting with governments without others knowing, worth digging into. Yeah, imagine, end up becoming an entire mess. Is this a newer museum? Yeah, 2006, if I recall correctly. TJ was TJ indeed. Probably not a nice guy to make friends with. So if you're on Facebook and pressing that angry face button, please don't. I do understand if you're angry when I'm reading these stories because it is very kind of troubling history. But angry face on YouTube, on Facebook, unfortunately, makes my video kind of be seen less. So if you want this video to be seen by more people learn about, that thumbs up button and comments of this history. It needs to be addressed at the highest political level. Native Americans still ignore at many levels. Yeah, the culture itself also is ignored. Here's a exhibit on the Incan Empire, and this is the original to pronounce. So it says that the Incan Empire rose rapidly and burned bright. In little more than 100 years, it grew from a small kingdom in the highlands of Peru to become the largest empire of the Americas. 2 million square kilometers. Whoa, 700,000 square miles. The equivalent of California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas combined. Texas is one of the largest states, so gigantic. So here is the entire Caribbean. You say that this has an ASMR vibe, yeah. So here is the Incan Empire. I'm gonna try to pronounce this, but please forgive me for my Incan pronunciation. Tawani tu sinusuyo. Dawane tu suyo. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how you would pronounce these consonants together. It means the four regions together. The Incans built a great road system in 150 years. Oh, interesting. Adam says, I would like to know what happened to the territories taken by the state. So Hyde makes a good point. Yes, many of them were used for nuclear test grounds, for example. The land, I think, given to many of the Native American tribes was a very poor land. They were ousted off very fertile land. And the thing is, by ousting these native peoples, we lost out a lot of agricultural knowledge, which is also a shame. For example, we've learned so much about how the Incas did terrace-based farming with potatoes, but we lost all the Americans' unwillingness to learn and to integrate and to accept or assimilate and come together with these native peoples. Here's a head ornament. Oh, you remember The Emperor's New Groove on Disney? Great movie. I really love that movie. This is the same hat, or the similar hat he used to wear. And of course, you know, not just agricultural knowledge, but of course spiritual, medicinal, many other types of knowledge lost due to our conflicts with native peoples. Jan says, my daughter has Sioux in her blood because her father was from the South Dakota and she was mixed Indian blood in her now. She studies all the background. When the pipeline protests were going on, she wanted to go help so badly. Oh, good on your daughter. Glad she's connecting with her heritage. Need to turn anger into determination and faith. Yes.
How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Beautiful pottery. Incan. Oh, wow. Look at this cylindrical cup. Oh, beautiful. I want that cup. That seems like a nice cup to have a good cold brew in. Now, the Incas, as opposed to, unfortunately, the Cherokee and the Muskogee and many other tribes, that culture has stayed a little bit more alive in, as far as I know, in South America. So most of the things I'm showing you are between 1200 and 1500. So this is 1450. So the Incas called the Milky Way the river, the Andean Milky Way. Throughout the Andes, the Milky Way was believed to be a river, Mayu, the source of all water on Earth. For the Incan, Earth and the sky were connected and the river Mayu rivers mirrors the Kangpak Nan. Both are sacred, alive, and parts of one whole. Many cultures see figures and grouplings of stars. The Incan often found their constellations in dark spaces between the stars, known as the Yana, Fuyu, dark clouds. In these dark clouds, they saw animals and other things from their daily lives. And they also have a Spanish translation, so I'll read it for anyone who's watching from Sudamérica. En la región andina se creía que en la Bahía Láctea era un río del Mayo, fuente de toda la agua de la tierra. Para los incas, la tierra y el cielo están conectados, y el río Mayo es el espejo de Capa, Nan. Ambos son sagrados, están vivos y forman parte de un todo. Muchas culturas observan figuras en esos grupos de estrellas, constelaciones. Los incas a menudo desviaban sus constelaciones en los espacios oscuros entre las estrellas, conocidos como Yana Fuyu, nubes oscuras. En estas nubes oscuras ellos veían animales y otros elementos de la vida continuada. Oh, that's so interesting. So I just basically read the same thing in Spanish and English, and they saw constellations in the dark clouds, which is fascinating. So rather than seeing just connecting the stars, they would see the dark clouds. Wow, really fascinating. Like right here. Right here, there we go. Do you know that Mexican and Native American people show up in very nearly the same genetics? Yeah, there's some very interesting studies, also with the Amazonians. Hey, here's Cusco. I can't wait to show you Cusco on live video one day. Lori says, well done. Oh, I'm so glad. Glad that you like my ASMR reading. And that was interesting. Thankfully, I know Spanish. Oh, glad. So this is what Francisco Pizarro, Conquistador, said from Spain. The city of Cusco is the principal one of all cities and is the residence of the nobles, and is so great and so
Welcome to the Smithsonian's National
and be
Museum
worthy of
of the
Spain.
American Indian. Visitors are required to wear face coverings and practice social distancing while in the museum. We appreciate your cooperation and thank you for your continued support of the museum. We hope you enjoy your visit.
It's a announcer, so not someone in the room. That announcement you just heard about the mass. So all these are from the 1400s. Lily, I'm so happy I can have you travel virtually. Thanks for watching. I wonder if it's actual gold. So this one is silver alloy. Yeah, silver, copper. Oh no, it is gold. Yeah, gold. So that they have the markings in reverse, but this is gold. Yeah, gold and silver. So these were offerings left at a location, it seems. Yeah, left at the Temple of the Sun. So these were spiritual objects, yeah. The golden enclosure. Oh, interesting. El Templo del Sol. That necklace look good on you. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad on that. Welcome. An Incan axe. Joe says, I've been on point researching. You've researched all of Washington. Oh, I'm so glad. Glad you enjoy the Washington videos. What is holding in its hands? Nothing. It just has breasts. It's a female figurine. Let's see, the necklace is made out of shells. Shells. So shells. Right there. Shells. So someone earlier asked, "What is the Smithsonian?" We're going to talk about that a little bit later on what p.m. But the Smithsonian, in essence, is a institution dedicated to spreading knowledge. The knowledge is literally everything, well, almost everything. We have Native American history here. There's also art museum. There's also air and space, engineering, natural history, and countless other things. And the zoo, yeah, zoo as well, Phil. Thank you for letting us know. Yep, these are ropes. The Incan were expert rope makers, so much so that they built very impressive, strong bridges made out entirely from rope. Many movies, people see rope bridges as being very precarious, but they were actually really, really strong and they lasted for a really long time. The other thing is they also had armor for their battles made out of rope too. So Europeans had wood and they had like early forms of like steel, copper, etc., bronze. But the Incan innovated rope to that same extent as the Europeans innovated metals. It was really interesting. And here are little offering jars in form of llamas. And you're spreading great knowledge in your videos. Oh, I'm glad. Oh, here it is. Here's the rope bridge. Oh, so cool. So it says, take a close look at these samples of ropes and cables, and you'll see how cords of grass twisted together create cables that can support more than 5,000 pounds. This is the name of the suspension bridge. Oh, there's an actual suspension bridge that survived from Incan times, and there's a few of them, I think. But the one pictured behind is called Kesawaka. Again, forgive my Incan pronunciation. And it's from the Apurimac River area in Peru. And it's one of those surviving bridges. Not made from hemp. I don't think it's hemp. Not quite hemp. I think Europe/Asia. So the Incas probably did not have access to hemp. Coca. So coca was used by the Incas, which were the leaves which you would make cocaine with. Has a similar effect when you eat the leaves. Not as strong as cocaine because cocaine is concentrated coca. They would put coca leaves inside their bags and chew it as they're climbing up mountains. And as they're going up very high elevation, and most of them did live in high elevation, it would help them adjust to the altitude. To this day, people who go up to these towns, villages, mountains in the Andes, in Incan territory, they still eat coca. And they still serve coca. It's normal. I think you can also have coca tea. I think nowhere as virulent or as strong drug as cocaine. Oh, wow. A powder horn. Ali, thank you so much for posting extra information. Was that the people riding a fish? I think a llama. I think it was a llama. Those are the Chiba Indians riding knots. Oh, I'm not entirely sure if it's Chiba, but they're definitely Inca. Here's a depiction of Noah's Ark. Modern day. Or not modern day, but this was 2008, so it is modern day. 2008. Interesting. Adam, is that shofar? I don't know. Alright, I don't have too much time left. We are going to see the rest of the museum in about 10 minutes. So, hope you enjoy. We're going to do a swift walk through the upper floor. But I do recommend everyone coming here and taking your sweet time here. But I do want to show you the National Mall at 1 p.m., so stay tuned. So let's do a nice swift walking through. And I hope you enjoyed the slow part, and then now let's go for fast. Phil says a wonderful museum to spend the day. Oh yeah, definitely. And whenever things go back to normal, they have an amazing cafeteria, which people have mentioned a few times. Literally some of the best food I've ever had. Period. Not even just best museum food. One of the best foods. They have foods from many of the native tribes all around America that represent them, and fresh produce. And it's amazing. Hopefully they open it up soon. Is the museum closing up midday? No, Virginia. I am doing a video 1 p.m. in the National Mall. So no. Today, for this museum, it's just an hour. But you can take longer time if you come here yourself. B. Griffin, I've done the Native American Museum in New York. It's beautiful, but this one's way more impressive.
Bound by those treaties. Your nation is bound by those treaties. And we have to go back to that very basic foundation of shaking hands and facing the future together.
No, it's just a
In
small
order to
little thing.
understand.
Yeah. No, they said that was okay downstairs.
You
Yeah.
have to
It doesn't
understand
extend.
the relationship between the United States and the Indian nations, how that relationship evolved right after that. America is missing the trees. America is missing
That was a museum guard. She thought it extended, but no, it doesn't extend. Lisa, the lady was asking me if it was a selfie stick. Because they all allow selfie sticks in museums. I think they're more concerned about the selfie sticks that get very long. And this one's tiny. So 4 levels, and we have finished it basically. That was it. A little bit more history on this 4th floor that you can take a little bit more of your time. Oh my god, Inuit sculpture? Is this a merman? A serpentine. Oh wow, this is interesting. They have a depiction of a half serpent, half man like a merman. So, only 4 floors. However, the main 2 exhibits are on the top 2 floors, 3 and 4. We saw 3 very slowly and we saw 4 very quickly. And that's the entire museum. The first 2 floors are mostly gift shops. And in the first floor is the amazing cafeteria, which is closed, unfortunately. So I highly recommend coming to this museum. It's free. If you're coming during pandemic time, which might be until 2021, you do have to reserve a ticket ahead of time. However, this museum, along with many of the other Smithsonian museums, really the maximum you have to reserve ahead of time is a day before, and you'll be okay. This time spot, 11 a.m., was actually close to being sold out. It's free, but it was sold out in terms of reserving. So I couldn't, I was very close to reserve it, but that was last night. And there's a bunch of other museums. So stay tuned. At 1 p.m., we're going to walk around the entire National Mall for an epic walk and go and see the outside of all these different museums and end towards the Lincoln Memorial to learn about the March on Washington. So why there's so many gift shops? I think the gift shops are pretty damn cool. So highly recommend also checking them out. But yeah, the gift shop is pretty damn huge as well. This was a wonderful place to learn your history. If you are from North America or South America, it's a great way to get acquainted with the history that might be forgotten in some countries. I know the US has kind of forgotten or left out many of the history of our native peoples, and we do have to remember it. And maybe somehow there's still some time to save some of that knowledge passed from generation to generation. A lot of people think that knowledge is always just limited to spiritual knowledge or some folk tales, but no, it's way, way more than that. The knowledge passed down includes agriculture, medicine, includes maybe science and astronomy. Sometimes we underestimate our native peoples because we have this Eurocentric vision, but native cultures, such as we saw with the Incas, have made technical marvels that can change our lives right now if we adopt some of their rope technology, for example. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and always keep on exploring. See you at 1 p.m. Have a great day, everyone.